It's time to answer your dog training questions. I'm going to answer some Patreon questions today. Patreon is our crowdfunding community that helps fund our production and a lot of our costs associated with that. So we'd love to have you as part of our Patreon community. If you're not already, and to all of our existing patrons, you're awesome. And I got one question regarding a young puppy, about 15 weeks or so, who's having trouble learning how to walk on a leash correctly. And the thing about leash walking to remember is that it's not the most natural thing for dogs to learn. I mean, there's nothing about the selection process when we were creating dogs over the last few centuries that selected for dogs that walk extra slow next to a person while tethered to a leash. So it's a little more advanced and to teach dogs, and it takes a little bit more time to teach than most might be prepared for initially. So it's not like teaching sit, stay, come, things like that. But that said, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't work on leash skills. But if your dog is easily distracted or biting at your clothes or chasing dogs and cats, work on continually getting their attention on you. But keep your expectations realistic and understand that there are greater priorities when teaching a dog to walk on or a young dog to walk on a leash anyway, like socializing them, getting them familiar with the world, and just, you know, generally building a great bond with them. It was a good question. That's why I'm sharing it with you. I just had another question too on basically separation anxiety with puppies. It's important to remember with puppies that they tend to be really clingy and want to be near us a lot. So I hesitate to call puppy separation anxiety legitimate separation anxiety, because that's just part of having a puppy. I mean, puppies are pretty high maintenance, and that's one of the reasons why they constantly need our attention and need things and want things and don't really understand what's going on. So it's important for us to be there and give them that reassurance and show them how we expect them to behave and reinforce good behaviors we like, and on and on and on. But puppies are a lot of work and more than a lot of people realize initially. Try to put yourself in your puppy's position. I mean, they're literally brand new to this world and they have never ever been alone or away from their litter mates or from their mom. So this is all very new and very strange to them. A lot of it is just them experiencing being alone and everything turning out okay. I wouldn't worry too much about it if you have a puppy. It's pretty normal. This is a good question too about excessive marking or peeing on walks. You know, with my own dogs, I tend to discourage them from doing a lot of peeing on walks myself because I find it easier to clean up if they do their business in the yard. So in general, I try to keep the walk moving, keep their attention on me, and just kind of keep the pace up on a walk so that they're not so tempted to stop every time they smell something. Now, with really young dogs, you do want to give them many opportunities to stop and smell and explore the world. But as your dog gets older, there's no need to stop every few seconds for them to kind of sniff around, you know, unless you want to. But it really comes down to personal preference. I was just asked about using multiple toys when teaching your dog how to play fetch. And I think that's a great idea, especially if you've hit a plateau. When you switch up the toy and change toys, that has a good chance of making the game more interesting and kind of reigniting your dog's interest in fetch. So experiment like crazy when you're teaching your dog fetch, especially if you've hit a plateau and they're just kind of into it a little bit. You don't always have to use conventional toys either, you know? Look for anything that your dog seems to be interested in. I was just asked about how to stop destructive chewing too. You know, destructive chewing, most types, are pretty easily resolved with exercising your dog just before leaving them alone. In this case, this dog would chew things up when being left alone. So exercise eliminates most unwanted chewing, unless you're dealing with like a teething puppy, you know, up to about a year old or so. Then you'll want to make sure that you have plenty of chew toys of varying textures for them to chew on, because it's not reasonable to just expect them not to chew when they're that young. If you have an older dog who's chewing, exercise just before leaving them alone, and doing a great job of managing their surroundings when they are alone is critical. I hope all of this was helpful. If you want to join our Patreon community, we'd love to have you, and we're going to keep these videos coming. See ya.